All right, so let's begin. This week's Torah portion is Lech Lecha. Lech Lecha is an epic Torah portion. You know, there's an old Hasidic saying that goes like this. Bereshit, right, the first Torah portion, Bereshit, starts off happy and ends kind of sad, right? It starts off with such great promise, creation, beauty, paradise, right? It almost sounds like a baseball, right, in the big inning. The first time, by the way, big inning. Speak to the LA and Toronto people. Which big inning? The 18 innings, 2 games last night. Wow. I digress. What time does the game start tonight? We'll be done. Don't worry. Based on last night, so plenty of time to watch the game after 10 gets done. But what's the point? The point is that it starts off good and it ends kind of sad. First Torah portion ends discussing humanity's corruption. Second Torah portion, Noach, begins with the corruption and the flood and destruction, not on a happy note, ends by talking about the birth of Avraham, Abraham, or as he's called initially, Avram, Abram. The third Torah portion, Lech Lecha, which is this week, is a fully happy week because, you know, the Torah portion is divided into 7 different readings. And each day, the ideal is that you study one portion of the Torah, one section of the Torah portion each day. So Sunday, you study the first reading, Monday, the second reading, Tuesday, the third reading. I could go on, but I think you get the idea. The point is, every single day this week, we're living with Abraham and Sarah. It's all good, even though they have their own ups and downs, but it's all good, it's all happy, and it's all amazing. All right, so that's a little bit of an intro. Now, what's curious is the following. Let's talk about film, movies, and cinematography. Of course, as you know, I've made several films in my career. Everyone's wondering, what am I talking about? I have not made several films in my career. However, that was a false flag just to see if you guys are paying attention. However, I do find
make a movie every week.
I make a movie. Oh yeah, there's a camera right now. What are you talking about? Absolutely. I can even do like a pan. Wait, all right, hold on, it's not really working. All right, let's stick with the program. Here is something interesting about a film. Imagine a movie's opening scene. And imagine you are the film, the camera. I honestly, I feel like I should know the exact terminology, but you're running the camera, not running it, but you're controlling the grip, whatever it's called. You're controlling the camera. The grips to the lighting. All right. No Agrippa for this. You are the cameraman or woman, the camera person. And the director tells you for the first scene, of course, the scene, there's a large space for the scene. There's maybe it's, you know, in a park and there's a bench and there's this and there's that happening. And the director says, listen, listen up, because the director speaks Yiddish. Listen up. For the first shot, the opening shot of the film, you're going to do a close-up, a tight shot on this character. You're going to zoom in for the opening scene, for the opening shot, and then it goes from there. How you begin the film, how you begin the movie, you know, with which shot sets the tone for the movie, sets the tone for the story that's about to unfold. Mm-hmm. And so the same might be said, lahavdil, of course, because we're talking about Torah, the same might be said regarding the story of Avraham Avinu, Abraham, our forefather. What is the opening shot? I don't mean like, right? I mean the opening scene. What is the opening shot of Avram's life and times? Now, just to be very clear and transparent, you don't want people to see me if I'm too transparent, but just to be, right? So last week, toward the end, as it's discussing, you know, the families that spawned off from Noach after the flood and the family of Shem, right? It does mention Avram, as I mentioned a few moments ago, in the context of the family trees, but he's not singled out. And nothing remarkable is stated about him. He's amongst many other people whose names are named, and it's just as a list or a family tree. Then we jump to the beginning of this week's Torah portion. When I say jump, a few verses later, this week's Torah portion starts. And how does it begin? I'm glad you asked. So we're going to get started with text number 1. Give me a moment. I need to pull up the text over here online. Please bear with me. Lech Lecha. All right. David, please read text number 1.
And God said to Avraham, go forth from your land, your birthplace, and your father's house to the land that I will show you. And I will make you into a great nation, increase your name, and may you be for a blessing. I will bless whom you bless, and those who curse you I will curse. And all the families of the earth will bless themselves by you. And Avram went as God instructed, and his nephew Lot accompanied him. And Avram was 75 years old when he left Sharon.
Now, I need to clarify here before we move on and turn the page. It's very important. Until now, and this is the third time I'm saying this, Avram's name was just mentioned, Abram's name was just mentioned amongst others. Comes along the beginning of this Torah portion, and God is now speaking to Avram, and he says to him, Lech Lecha, me'artzecha, me'molalecha, me'ezavicha, go from your land, your birthplace, your father's house, to the land that I will show you. That's the opening verse. And then he promises riches and rewards, a nation, great nation, your name, you'll be a blessing. Blessings and curses will flow through you. And then verse 4, Abraham does as he was told, and he went along with him himself, his wife. That's implied, even though it's not stated clearly. And his nephew Lot. By the way, who is his nephew Lot? So as we know in the family tree, well, I mean, a nephew is a nephew, right? Lot is the son of Avram's brother who died in a fiery furnace. You guys know this story? You guys know hey, good to see you, Ramon. Sure. The story of Ar Kasdim. So when Avram began his monotheistic leanings and teachings, so the local king where he lived, his name was Nimrod, the local king said, hey, you got to stop this monotheism business. And Avram didn't, and he said, I'm going to throw you into a fire, and I'm going to kill you if you don't stop. And he says, do what you wish. I'm not going to stop. And Avraham is ultimately thrown into a fiery furnace, and he miraculously survives. Well, afterwards, his brother was around, and they said to his brother, and what say you? Are you a monotheist? He's like, yes. Are you prepared to be thrown into the furnace? He said, yes. And they threw him in, and he died. That's Avram's brother. And the commentators point out it's because he didn't really believe so strongly. He just like, oh, magic trick happened to my brother. Let me give it a whirl. And so his brother had died in that fire. And so Lot, his brother's son, his nephew, hung out with Avram and Sarah, who was known then as Sarai. And so he's kind of traveled with him. Back to the story. There's one thing that's very odd in this story. And that is there's no pretext. There's no rationale given for why God is speaking with Avram. Yeah. It doesn't refer to him as a tzaddik. It doesn't refer to him as a righteous person. It doesn't refer to him as somebody who God liked or who liked God. There's no information. If you recall last week's Torah portion, at the beginning of last week's Torah portion, the Torah introduces us to Noah. And it says that Noah, and the truth is Noah was also in the Torah portion before. At the end of Parashat, the first Parashat, the first Torah portion, Noah is name dropped. Yeah, he's mentioned. And then last week's Torah portion at the beginning, Eila Todot Noach. These are the generations or the stories of Noach. Noach ish tzaddik tamim haya b'dorotav. We had a class on this last week. Noach was a tzaddik tamim. You know what that means? A complete tzaddik. And then it says that God speaks to him and tells him, hey, I'm going to destroy the world. You need to build an ark. And the story unfolds. But we know why God is speaking to Noah. In a world, back to the movie theme, in a world of corruption, one man stood out. Noah, right? And so Noah is the one guy that God can speak to help preserve humanity and the animals.
You have a good movie voice.
I do have a good movie voice. Thank you. I was waiting to be discovered. Turns out, Scott, I appreciate it. Okay. However, Avram doesn't have the same introduction. The Torah portion begins. All we know is that he was born last week, it's Torah portion. And this week it says, God spoke to him. And God says, go. Who's Avram? Why is God speaking to Avram? Why is he telling him to go? None of this makes any sense. Let's continue. Ramon, please read text number 2. Text number 2 is Rabbeinu Bachya. He asked the question, the first question that we're going to address tonight.
Before the Torah states that God spoke to Abram, it would have made sense to inform us of his greatness and character so we would know who he is. Then the Torah can tell us that God spoke to him. After all, this is what the Torah did for Noah.
Yeah, that's the question. And even though there's no question mark anywhere in this paragraph, the whole thing is a question mark. And to rephrase it as a question, why does God not introduce Avram's greatness, piety, righteousness, and none of this? And, the question is magnified. Let's just pause here for a quick moment. The question is greatly magnified when you read the Midrashic and Talmudic sources that speak about Abraham's youth. I mean, here's what we know about it. I'm gonna do a quick overview and sketch. Many of you are very familiar with what I'm about to say, but I just want to, for the record, document briefly what our sages tell us about Avram's life and times up until the age of 75. At the age of 3, he begins to ponder the universe. As 3-year-olds do, right? Where do we come from? How is life created? Where's this? And he sees the sun. The sun must be powerful, but then the sun sets. Maybe the moon, but then the moon disappears when the sun's out. Maybe it's the wind, but the mountain stands up to the wind. Not everything has a check and a balance. And so he comes to the conclusion, there's got to be a force greater than anything within nature. And it took him years, as Maimonides discusses, it took him years to formulate this idea. And we call this roughly the idea of monotheism. The sun's not in charge. The moon's not in charge. The mountains are not in charge. The wind's not in charge. Nothing's in charge. Only God Almighty is in charge. And he came to that on his own. And then he found a band of fellow monotheists. Turns out, unbeknownst to him, because he was born in a pagan, idolatrous household, to a pagan, idolatrous, parents who were pagan, to a father who used to make idols. Which, with the famous story that I'll share in just a moment, although we've all heard it, 1,000 times, although he's born and steeped in that and raised in that society, that family, and that society, and that culture, he breaks against everything. And he finds a band of merry monotheists. That's what they were called. That's the website, bandofmerrymonotheists.com. Joking. And who were they? Shem. From last week's Torah portion, one of the 3 sons of Noah, Shem, who is he seems like at least our narrative is, right? He's our spiritual predecessor. Shem is the most righteous of the bunch. And Shem is the one who had a yeshiva. Now, what did it look like? What were they studying? I don't know. I wasn't there. But Shem and his grandson or great-grandson, Aver, they had a yeshiva. They had an academy teaching monotheism. It was an exclusive group. It probably wasn't that well attended. Again, in a world of paganism, it was an outlier. Abraham discovers it. He joins. He finds people who had a tradition from Noah, who had a tradition all the way back to Adam, that there was one God in charge. It kind of got lost. It got lost in the shuffle. It's kind of like rediscovering like an old tune that everyone knew and that everyone forgot. And so Abraham's in on it. And then, as I mentioned, I kind of went out of order with the story. Then he gets in trouble with his family. Then he gets in trouble with the king. And then he is ready to give up his life. He lived a very not complicated. He lived a very, what's the right word? Brave, fierce, devoted, explorative life for the first 74 or 75 years. When you get to the Lech Lecha story, when God says to him, oh, go, and we're not told any of this, it seems like there's a massive problem here. Not only is it not saying he was righteous, not only does the Torah not tell us the full backstory of who he was, which would make sense for the father of Judaism and monotheism, as it were, right? It doesn't even mention, like by Noach, that he was righteous. Nothing, not one word. Complete radio silence. The question is why? All right, let's continue with some more questions. That's the question Rabbeinu Bachya asks, as we read in text number 2. The Ramban, Nachmanides, the great medieval commentary, lived in the 1200s. Nachmanides asks another few questions. I'll say them outside and we'll read them inside. First, outside. Question number 1. What's this business that God tells Abraham, leave your land, it's weird. We don't find that anywhere else in Torah. Seems like a very weird command. Leave everything behind? Since when is that a godly command? God says, be righteous, be moral, be kind, be whatever the Torah says. When does it say leave home? Since when is that a thing? Why does God tell Abraham? So you're going to say, oh, you know why? Because where Abraham lived, it was antithetical to his monotheistic beliefs. And when he went to Canaan, they were all monotheists. They weren't. Right. He left one place. Oh, yeah, they would be antagonistic to monotheism. So he went to Canaan, which would be later the land of Israel. And there they were also idolaters. There was no. So what he left one. He left. What's it? He leapt from the pan to the what is it? There's
Jump from the frying pan.
frying pan to the fire. Like what's and again, but aside from that piece of it, why is God telling him go? What kind of weird command is that? Go. Who else does God tell go? Oh, to the land that I will show you. I'm not even telling you where you're going to go. It's not just leaving, it's leaving without a destination. Oh, it was a test. Would he follow God? It's a weird test. By the way, this is not my question. It's not, he asked it 800 years ago. I'm just repeating the question. What kind of command is this? And the third question, if you're keeping score at home, the third question is, why does God promise the greatest rewards ever for this weird commandment? God says, go to the land I will show you, and you know what's going to happen? I will make your name great. You will be a blessing. Those that bless you will be blessed. Those that curse you will be cursed. What is happening here? It's a weird mitzvah. And then just lavishing just promises of reward upon this weird commandment is also weird. Again, this is all Ramban Nachmanides. Let's read this inside. Yaakov, we're up to you. Please read text number 3.
Why did God tell Abraham to leave his land and receive unprecedented blessings without telling us that he was a devout servant of God or that he was utterly righteous?
Now, that was the first question we asked. Continue.
Also, God should have provided a reason for leaving his homeland. Perhaps doing so would draw him closer to God.
Pause for 1 second, but that's not mentioned. So that leaves us with a question, why this weird commandment to leave home?
A broader question, the Torah usually promises a reward for walking with God and obeying him. This is what God said to King David and King Solomon. This is also a general theme in the Torah. For example, if you follow my edicts in Leviticus, or if you will hearken to the voice of God, your God, I will reward you. In Deuteronomy, concerning Isaac, the Torah states, you will be blessed in the merit of my servant Abraham. Yet concerning Abraham, the Torah promises unprecedented blessings merely for leaving his land. This makes little sense.
And that's the third question. Question number 1, why no intro? Question number 2, why does God tell him to leave home? Question number 3, why does God promise lavish rewards for just leaving his land, for just leaving home?
Why does his name change between last text and this text? We have not heard the story of his name changing.
Yeah, good question. Good question.
Married. No, he's already married.
Yeah, but his name wasn't changed. At this point in the narrative, Lech Lecha, at this point in the story, his name is not changed. The simple answer is, and it's not a satisfying answer, but the simple answer is because Nachmanides wrote his commentary in the 1200s. And by that time, then everyone knows him as Avraham. And so he was just using the name that we all know. But in the biblical text, which is before the name change, so that's the correct chronology of this name. So he's referred to as Avraham. The Ramban wasn't being so specific as what his name was then. He's just saying, he's just using the name that we're all familiar with. Again, it's not a satisfying answer, but that's most likely what's going on with that. You with me on the 3 questions? Okay, so now let's get into some resolutions. And what I will share with you is that tonight's class, as we get into the heart of the explanation, is going to touch on major themes within Judaism, major implications and themes regarding what a mitzvah is and what it's not, and what it is not, and also provide a window, a very unique window of insight into the mitzvah campaigns that are so part and parcel of Chabad, what I like to call street Judaism. All of this coming up in the next 32 minutes. Buckle up. We're about to get started. Oh, wait, it's maybe the bars, like the roller coaster, they come down. You ever go on a roller coaster and they comes down and you're like, okay, everyone, and then you start off and you realize like it's loose.
Yeah,
That's happened. That's happened. It's like not totally loose. Hold on, but like just not as tight as you would like it to be. And you're like, yeah, I mean that's it. You're off and running.
We've been on a roller coaster that was on the incline and it got stuck.
Who was? You were on the incline and got stuck? Oh gosh, how high up were
Did
you?
you enjoy your experience?
Oh,
It
that's
was great.
How long were you stuck?
We weren't upside down. We were on the incline. That's it for a good half hour, 40 minutes.
Better than
No.
being on the decline.
Could it even get stuck on a decline? Is that possible? Yeah. Is it possible to get stuck on a loop? Has that ever happened?
It's the chain is the chain.
Yeah,
is-
well, let's not even think about that. All right. Let's not raise the anxiety level of this class. Let's bring it back down. Let's bring it back down. Let's not lower the bar. We're going to raise the bar as we disembark from this ride. All right, back to the story. Let's talk about, and here's how I want to frame it. There's many different ways. There are many different ways that we could approach this conversation. I want to approach it. I mean, like my cinematography example, I'm going to zoom in on one aspect and ask a question of all of you. And the question is very simple. What's the question? I'm going to say a question and hopefully it's the right one. We'll see. We'll see if the mouth says what the head is thinking. Okay. Why do countries make laws? Okay. Feel like it's a general enough question. Why do countries or societies or cities, municipalities, whatever, why do nations and societies create laws?
To establish standards of behavior, universal standards.
Love it. Well, no, hold on, not universal necessarily, because they're not local. To establish the norms
Popular
of the society. These are expectations. This is right and wrong. This is what you need to do. And so whether it's abstaining from doing certain things, like you can't do that. You can't do that. You cannot build a home or a thing that's higher than whatever it is, because we like to have, doesn't Paris have that rule? Where you can't build, like within the city, you can't build.
Washington, D.C.
DC has that. There you go. So certain places might say, look, listen, we don't want the view obscured, obstructed, whatever. I always think about, oh, wow, he just passed away. Rabbi Schoenberg Lipsker in Bal Harbor, Florida. He just an incredible person, just passed away, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago. Within the last year, for sure. He was just an unbelievable guy. He built the famous, it's called the Shul of Bal Harbor. It's like a full city block. It's gorgeous. It's huge, like many different minyanim services at the same time. Anyway. But his office, when he built his shul on 96th Street, I think, and like a block away from the ocean on Miami Beach, place called Surfside. So Bal Harbor, Surfside, I think it's kind of like all in the proximity. So from his office, he was able to see the ocean. Well, it didn't last that long because developers bought the property across the street from the shul, facing the ocean, built these, super tall high rises, and that's the view. Now you're viewing someone else who has a view of the ocean. So a place might say, look, here's the deal. We're all we're all in agreement, or we're not in agreement. It doesn't matter. We're not going to build higher than whatever height. And then they might say some other rules. You can't, I don't know. What's a good rule? You can't, there's like millions of rules of that societies have put on their populace. You can't, can't try while texting. You can't.
Noise reduction.
No, there you go. You can't throw a party after what's
11.
The noise ordinance here? Is it 10 or 11? After 10 or 11, whatever, you got to shut down your party. Oh, you want to listen to music? Right? God created headphones for that, as it were. Right? You ever see those silent discos? Mm-hmm. The concept, have I experienced one? I don't know. A silent disco, for those of you that want to join me on the silent rave coming up. I'm kidding. So you basically would walk into a room where the party is, and you would hear nothing, but everyone's dancing. Everyone's wearing headphones and listening to the same music being played. And so you're listening to it and you're dancing, but the one who doesn't have headphones, by the way, that's a beautiful analogy for life. The Baal Shem Tov gave, this is all sidebar, just so you know where this is in the class. This is now sidebar, okay? This is not the main stage performance. This is the side stage show. So the Baal Shem Tov said, imagine there was a musician who, let's say a violinist, who decides to start playing his violin in the middle of the city, middle of town, of the town square. And people start gathering, and it's amazing, and it's wonderful, and it's magnificent, and and they start dancing and singing or whatever. They start moving to the music, and then somebody walks by, and this person is deaf. This person can't hear. And he sees everybody moving their arms and their legs. Everyone's gone crazy. Oh, this place, Mishugayim, they're crazy. Mishugana. Are they crazy? Or maybe you can't hear the music. And I think the silent disco thing is also beautiful. It's like a modern version of that parable, where it's like, if you're not tuned in, there might be the most beautiful things around you in the world. It's things that would make a person otherwise sing and dance, but we're not tuned into it. Why? Because we're worried about whatever. We're walking along the street, High Point Road, and there's beautiful trees, leaves that are changing color, falling to the ground. Magnificent. Gadlus habayra, the beauty of our Creator. Beautiful creations. And we're driving, and maybe we're texting while we're driving, God forbid, right? But we're too busy to stop and smell the roses.
No, I've been picking up the colored leaves.
You've been picking up the color. Okay, Toba's saving humanity one leaf at a time by noticing the beauty of God's creation. What's the point? Yeah.
Glenridge, right where you go, 285 West. If you're right there and you're looking, you will see something that looks like the Western Wall.
Really?
Yeah. There's four different types of plants growing in the wall. And one of them actually has yellow flowers and big.
You got to take a picture of it and send it to us.
And they're like waving proudly. It's like, oh, yeah, check us out. We could like die at any moment or fall out of this crack, but like we're doing it. It's like,
nice.
It's crazy.
And we miss so much, but that's a sidebar. Listen, the lesson unto itself, but let's get back to the main theme. Societies make rules to keep people, I don't know, law-abiding. It's to keep people safe, to keep people happy, to keep people protected, to keep people from harming each other, and hopefully able to actualize their best self. That's
I thought it was for political power.
Or for political power. It depends. Depends who, depends how you look at it. Fine, that too. Fine. The question is like this. Why does God give us mitzvot? Why? One simple answer could be, well, God also wants us to live a civilized, good life, the best life. God says, listen, I'm going to give you a manual for living your best life. But tonight, we will fundamentally reject that premise. The premise that Torah and mitzvot exist for our betterment, we are going to reject. Not that it doesn't better us, but that there's a much deeper intention. So here we go. And we're going to step off of that and step a half a step over. And let me ask another question. Think about this. Think about the fact that you and I are creations, meaning God creates us. God created us, continues to create us. We are creations. As creations, we are finite. Anyone who thinks they're infinite is in for a surprise. It's like the scene in the subway. God is dead. Nietzsche. Underneath it, it says Nietzsche is dead. God, right? God said, Nietzsche's like, God is dead. And where's Nietzsche? He's not around. He's not around to tell us where he is, right? Human beings are mortal. We have an expiration date. Everyone who's lived has at some point, well, excluding the current
Will at some point.
crop, has or will at some point not be. That is the nature of humankind. And aside from physical mortality, we all have our limits. There's a limit to how much we can understand. There's a limit to how much we can feel. There's a limit to how much we can empathize and love and be disciplined. We have our limits. And as we get older, our body becomes more frail. And I'm laughing because I'm thinking to myself that every time I need to read something with small print, you know what I do? I'm like this. I'm that guy. I'm that guy that can't see with the glasses. And I know what you're thinking. You need bifocals. Guess what? I have bifocals. They still don't work. They're still not sufficient. At the end of the day, human beings are fallible. We are not infallible. We are highly fallible. We are susceptible. We are frail. I mean, we started the class with a conversation about pins and screws and plates in various parts of the body. Human beings are frail. And the question is, how could a limited, finite, frail, fallible human being ever hope to connect with the infinite creator. It is such a gulf. It is absolutely unbridgeable. It would seem to be unbridgeable. And the answer is, it is. If you or I were to try to climb the mountain, whatever that means, or climb the ladder or whatever that means, to reach God, we would never get there. Because as far as we ascended, we would never reach the space of creator infinitely greater than us. We might climb 100 steps, 1,000 steps, 1,000,000 steps. We cannot bridge, we cannot overcome the gap between infinite and finite. It is by definition an unbridgeable gap. It's completely beyond anything we could ever reach on our own. The only way we can reach it is if God stretches beyond that divide and says, grab my hand. That is the only way. You and I cannot, with our own mind's volition, we will never climb up and reach God. God, though, because, again, God is not limited and is infinite, can reach across that impossible chasm. Is that how you pronounce it? Chasm? Chasm. Only God can reach beyond the chasm and reach out. What was that? Reach out and touch someone? Wasn't that the
reach out and touch someone?
That was like what, AT&T or something, or Bell or Sprint?
Yellow Pages.
Yellow Pages. Only God can do that. Only God can do that. So now let's redefine this. What is a mitzvah? Now you're saying, well, mitzvah is God telling us, be a mensch, be a good person. That all of that is true, but that's not at the core of a mitzvah. You know what the core of a mitzvah is? God giving us an opportunity to touch him. God giving us an opportunity to connect with him. God says, here's how it's going to work. You can meditate for 120 years and feel yourself divesting of the material and becoming one with wisdom, and you can, whatever the language is. And guess what? You'll be, instead of here, you'll be over there. And you know where God is? Way beyond. So you elevate it a little bit, and that's good, not taking that away, but you never touch God. You touch your maybe even you imagine you touch God, but you know what that is? Your imagination of touching God. How do you know you touch God? When God reaches out and says, do this, and now we're connected. That's what a mitzvah is. A mitzvah at its core comes from the expression tzavta mitzvah. Tzavta, which means chibur, which means connection, joining two disparate things, two separate things together. That's what a mitzvah is. So does a mitzvah make us better? Sure. Does a mitzvah make us refined? Sure. Does it teach us how to live a meaningful life? Sure. All of that is true. But all of that is icing on the cake. What's the cake? What's the actual cake? In this weird dessert metaphor, the cake is the ability to interface, to connect, to cleave, to bond with God. That is the key. That is the essence of a mitzvah. And it doesn't come because we threw a ladder up and we climbed up to heaven. That's not how it's going to work. The only way it works is if God throws down the ladder to us and then we climb it. That's the only way it works. How could we ever build a ladder to the sky? Last week's Torah portion ended with the story of the tower. Spoiler alert, they didn't reach the heavens. No one can build a tower to reach the heavens, but God can throw down the ladder to us. Because what can't he do? That's what a mitzvah, give me a second. That's what a mitzvah at its core is. A mitzvah is a point of interface, a point of connection with the infinite. It's how finite and infinite touch. Now I'm thinking of E.T., right? E.T., that little finger touch situation. That's what a mitzvah is. Now, I just want to round this out because I think everyone's with me on this. What happened in Abraham's first 75 years of his life? For the first 75 years of his life, you know what his life was about? Discovering God. Who? Him. I don't think God is the sun. I don't think God is the moon. I don't think God is the wind. I don't think God is the mountain. I think there's something greater than all that. I think I discovered God. Wow, let me talk with my friends about this. Oh, they also have this notion of monotheism. Wow, let me do what God would want me to do and tell other people about God. Guess what? All of that is what he imagined God would want him to do. And any human being that conjures up and imagines, if I were God, what would I want me to do? Wait, no. If I were God, what would God want me, the non-God I, the me I, the real I, to do? Like, what would that look like? Oh, that's what I'm going to do. Guess what? All of that is the human being trying to throw the ladder up in futility. You might be climbing and you might be better off than when you were on the ground, but do you ever reach God? No. The first time Abraham reaches God is when God reaches out to him. So he asked the question, why no introduction? Abraham, solid guy, discovers monotheism, dedicated to his beliefs. Well, guess what? It can't even come close to the first time God gave him a mitzvah. And that was Lech Lecha. We'll talk about the significance of leaving your land. The Ramban asked the question. We've answered that now, the first question. Why not tell us about Abraham's bio, a brief history, or even that he was a tzaddik? Because you know what? The foundation of Judaism is not, wow, look at what I've discovered. I'm such a tzaddik. I've conjured up an image or imagine my imagination of what I think God wants. No, that's not what Judaism is. Judaism is at its core. I mean, it does have other stuff, but at its core, you know what Judaism is? You know what Torah is? You know what a mitzvah is? It's a connection point that we didn't create, because how could we ever possibly create that fusion? It's a connection point God creates, gives to us, and basically says, leave everything you thought, everything you know, everything you feel, because that's not relevant. What's relevant is, will you do what I'm asking of you to do? I know it sounds a little bit like, it may sound a little like harsh, like, whoa, Judaism is obedience. Let's soften it up a little bit. Yes, but let's soften it up. Meaning it's about, example that I'll give. I've shared it before, maybe different context, or maybe this context, similar context. It's like, and this is obviously going to be a supremely reduced example of this, kind of infinite concept, infinite gulf concept, separation, distance. Like you want to buy your wife or your spouse, your husband, wife, best friend, parent, whatever is having a birthday, and you're like, oh, let me get them a present. And then your first thought is, what do I think they would want me to get them? You might be right. You might be wrong. You know when you're definitely not wrong is if they tell you what they want. Now you're like, well, yeah, but that takes the fun. The whole fun is this discovery. Great. You want to have fun? That's Abraham's first 75 years. You want to have the fun, Judy, that fun? Read the Medrash. The Torah is telling us, you know what a mitzvah really is? Getting it right. And you know what? You know when you know you're getting it right? If God says, here's what I'd like you to do, and you do it. Simple. At Sinai, God tells Moses, ask the people, you ready? You want the Torah? You know what the people said? Nasa v'nishma. We're in. We'll do it. Because you're giving it. We'll do it. I mean, they asked God, how much is it? God said it's free. They said, we'll take 2 tablets. Oh my gosh. I had to make a joke. All right. I thought it's getting a little serious. You guys with me on this? Yeah. Makes sense? Yeah.
I don't know if how much we actually feel, or how much we experience or sense the connection. So obviously it's by faith.
Yeah.
But God in various places says, I will, God takes care of those who cry out to him, happy is the man who has faith in God. So God throws a lot of horrific stuff at people. And when you're at your bottom and you've hit rock bottom, you're like, God, I can't handle with somebody. I actually am in an untenable situation. I can't live like this. And then please help me. And then you give up, and then all of a sudden, you just feel your whole spirit and soul brought out of the pit. So is that not a form of connection?
I don't know. I'm not saying it's not, because why would I want to take away a connection that someone feels? What I can say is that all of that is highly subjective. A person might feel it. They might not feel it. They might feel something and say that what they're feeling, believe that what they're feeling is that. I don't know. I'm not trying to, so just to be very clear, I'm not trying to position myself personally, Ari Sollish, as the knower and seer of all things spiritual, and I know what is an authentic experience or not. I have no idea. That's not for me to know or to judge on any level. What I'm sharing though today is what it says in the books. I'm not sharing my own ideas. And we're about to read it. And that is that a person's personal experience, spiritual experience, may or may not be God, may or may not be, or even if it is godly, is it touching the essence? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
But one way to touch the essence is when the essence, Anochi, Hashem Lechecha, I, first of the 10 commandments begins with the word I, which means my core. Well, I mean, that's the opening of the 10 commandments, right? So everything that follows is coming from God's I, as it were, God's essence. That's how I know I'm touching God's essence. If God reaches down and says, do this and I do this, now I know we've connected. All right, let's read this inside a little bit. You want to say something? Oh, no. Scott, are we up to you or did you read? Okay, hold on one second. Let me pull this up for the folks online. 4a, please take it away. This is Rambam, Maimonides.
In the beginning, in the days of Terah, Abraham's father, and before our ancestors were pagan, strayed after vanity and pursued idol worship. The true religion emerged when God drew us near to him, chose us from among all nations, and brought us close to his one.
The implication of Maimonides' words is that Judaism begins with God reaching out, not with humans reaching out, but with God reaching out. And that happens at 75 years of Abraham's life. Text 4b, please, if you don't mind. Scott, continue with one more.
Relationship between God and most people begins with knowing and acknowledging God. This bonds them to God and inspires them to follow his ways. Noahide quote. Our identity as Jews and our bond with God are not formed by our ascending spirituality, coming to know God and developing a relationship with him. Rather, God initiated. He chose us.
Beautiful. Let's skip to text number 6. All right. Again, all of this I explained outside. So, I mean, all this should sound familiar, but it's grounded. Listen, just so you know what we did. We did a text from Maimonides, from his laws, books of laws. We did 4b, which is a sikha, a talk of the Rebbe from 1980, 81, or 82. I think this actual sikha, this talk, was a combination of a few years of different insights kind of woven together. Let's skip text 5, which is the Maharal of Prague, and because it's the same lines. Text number 6, Meira, please take it away.
God's commandments to Noahides are primarily designed to make the world inhabitable by refining the human character. This way, the people and the world will be as they should be. Since they are designed to influence and refine humanity, they must be rational edicts humans can grasp and relate to. The objective of God's commandments to Jews is not just to refine the Jew in the world, but also, and primarily, to bind us to him. Since the Creator is infinitely superior to his creations, no degree of human effort can bind us to God. This bond is achieved not by our self-refinement, elevation, devotion, or spiritual enlightenment, no matter how advanced, but by God's initiative and instruction. Our role is merely to obey.
Thank you. Now, again, I just want to be clear. If this sounds a little harsh, a little bit like, wow, like that's it? Our role is merely to obey? It's just like that. There's no fun. Like what Judaism is not about, like, it's not experience. It's not about like feeling and thinking and studying. And what are we doing then? Like, what are we even doing? Why Torah study? Like, what are we even, and prayer is avodah shebelev, it's service of the heart. Like, what are we actually doing? So again, just to explain, and it's important whenever to learn everything, including this tonight, with nuance. It's not saying that don't study or don't feel. It's not saying that. It's saying that, but there's something that transcends all of that, or is deeper than all of that, and that is the experience of connecting with God. And when do we connect with God? It's not when we are in our head. It's not when we're in our heart. It's when we are doing what God Almighty asks us to do. There's no greater way to connect with another one. And we know this also in relationships. You might have the best idea. Oh my gosh, you know what my wife is going to love? A set of golf clubs, because I love golf, which
I thought it was a vacuum cleaner.
or yeah, well, no, that's grounds for eviction. That's like, I used to like whatever. I'm gonna. Okay, you ready? You ready? You guys want to know about me? Okay, when we were first married, Leah and I would go into the Kinus HaShluchim, which is the Chabad rabbis convention, 5,000 strong or 6,000, whatever it is. Going to New York for a weekend in November this year. It's coming up in a few weeks. So I would go to Crown Heights, which is the hub, the epicenter of Chabad, Chabad headquarters, and it's where so many, Jewish shops are and bookstores and whatever. So whatever your Jewish needs, if you're in Brooklyn, it's a great place to buy this stuff. And so I would always ask my wife, so like, can I get you something? And I'm telling you, it's so funny when I say this, because it's going to sound like you're a moron. I understand that. But I would be like, oh, is there like a new cookbook that you want? I'm like, okay. So now again, retrospect is retrospect, but it used to be like, oh, there's all these, I walk into a store, like a bookstore, like, oh, these like interesting, flashy cookbooks. I'm like, great, this is great. And it wasn't like offensive. It wasn't trying to be, but like eventually she's like, we don't need more cookbooks. You can think of something else. Like I like, all right, cookbook. I didn't mean it anyway. What's the point? The point is it's always better and more connected to hear from the other person what they would like. That's usually the best, just ask. Hey. So it's not like Abraham said to God, hey, what would you like? Like, I've discovered you now. What do you want me to do? God says, oh, I'm so glad you asked. Lech Lecha. God initiates, because Abraham was like, oh, I figured out God. I'm dedicated. I'm teaching. I'm this, I'm that. He was off and running. And God says, whoa, slow down. The key to this, to the point, it's not only the key. None of this is going to be written in the Torah. All of your previous 75 years of devotion, exploration, and discovery, it's not even in the text. You know what the first thing is? The Aleph Bet. The first thing, the ABCs of Judaism is God says, and you do. Well, then you know you're connecting with God. Otherwise, you might be connecting with your imagination of what God wants, or your imagination of what present your spouse wants from Brooklyn. All right? That might not be what they want. It's like, well, wouldn't you want that? Maybe, maybe not. But God is not a spouse that is equally finite. God is infinite. There's no way we would ever reach that on any level. Even if we got it right, we're wrong. Not wrong, but like we're not reaching that God's essence. All right,
So the challenge I have with that is, okay, God said to pray 3 times a day. You show up at shul,
right,
or at home.
You do it.
You do it by rote, and you don't feel like there's a connection. God said eat kosher.
Right.
So you don't eat your ham and cheese sandwich, you get turkey on rye.
Right.
Does that mean you've really got a connection? It doesn't feel like it.
We spoke about this a few months ago. Right? Mira asked me the question. 1 second. Chassidus, Kabbalah, Judaism teaches that when you do a mitzvah, you're connected with what we're talking about tonight, with God. How come you don't feel it? You asked me that question at this table.
Well, kindred spirits.
So that's my way of getting out of the answer, because we already discussed it. No, I'm kidding. It's a good question. It's a good question. It's a good question. It's a good question. You know, the truth is, not all connections can be felt. It's almost like, you know what it says in Kabbalah? It says the connections we make nowadays, we don't feel, because we're in galut. We're in a state that's non-conducive. It's like the connections are being made, but we're still on the other side of the matrix. So we don't see it. We don't feel it. When Mashiach comes, the veils will be lifted, and then we'll feel it. We'll see it. Now, does that help? I don't know. Still can't feel it.
No.
But it might help to know. Imagine if someone told you that every time you push this button, you are somebody trustworthy. You are like pulling in $1 million into your account. You'd be like, boom, boom, boom. But you still can't withdraw it. You can't withdraw it. Can't touch the money. But you're loading it up. Now, I may be using an example that still doesn't work. So is that exciting? You also might say, no. What's the point if I can't use it? Well, maybe it's knowing that one day you can. But I also think at the end of the day, there's something satisfying knowing that you were there for the other, that you did the right thing, even though whatever. And I will say, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't appreciate the prayers or you shouldn't appreciate the mitzvah and you shouldn't connect with it. It just means to go a little bit deeper and don't make it about the personal experience. Don't make it only about how I felt about it. Do it primarily because God said so. Remember, even by Sinai, they said, Naseh v'nishma. We'll do, and then we'll study. So, which means that there is a role for that. Meaning, okay, I think your question is, well, which one is it? Are we supposed to pray and feel it? In which case, maybe we're connecting with our own imagination. Or are we supposed to pray just because God said so? I'm going to say the words and that's it. And that's the deepest level. I don't know if it's either or. Maybe it's both. Maybe it's I'm praying and I'm trying to connect and trying to feel. But I also know that as much as I connect and feel, consciously feel, whatever, it's not really about that. But I still do it.
even
don't
if you don't understand what you're saying.
Ideally, we should.
Are there,
I-
are
yeah.
there any, you know how sometimes there's like 2 Jews, 3 opinions?
Yeah.
So like, are there any examples of the opposite of what you're saying? Like, okay, so God initiates the relationship with Abraham, and it always goes that way. But are there any examples in Judaism of people?
1 second.
Yeah.
Flash them the signals. Fastball down the middle. Kidding. Yeah.
So are there any examples of the opposite? Are like there any examples of like people initiating a relationship with God, like this going the other way, or is it always in Judaism in our tradition? Is it always the example always been the way it is with Abraham? Top down.
I don't know if there are biblical examples of that. I think here we have the foundation, the founding father, as it were, of Judaism is told this lesson. Will there be lessons in Torah and in other sources that talk about feeling and consciously connecting? Sure. But I think there's something significant about the formative, I guess, foundational story of Judaism being this one that starts at 75 with a commandment to leave yourself. It doesn't mean that we won't find stories that signify or that speak to the importance of feeling and knowing and studying and whatever. We will find many stories.
That's what I'm asking. That's not what I'm asking. What I'm asking is, are there any examples how God is initiating a relationship here? Okay, and
Yeah.
you're talking to this, the beginning of Judaism. But are there examples of any individuals that initiated a relationship with God like this going the other way? Can you think of anything like that?
I don't know. Where people discovered, I think once God kind of announced himself and kind of like got this whole thing running, I think after that, we're all just kind of following the lead. At that point, I don't know if we can like on our own discover. I mean, individually, people like maybe weren't raised with that conscious awareness and then kind of discovered on their own. But I mean, that's an individual experience. I understand what you're asking. I now understand better what you're asking. I don't know. I'm not sure. It's a
What
good
about
question.
the concept of a convert?
Yeah, that's a good example. That's a good example.
That's
Someone
a
converts to Judaism.
I'm talking about. Let's just say we take this story as being. I don't know if you actually believe these stories as being true or if you think they're metaphors, allegories. The point is that we have a story here where clearly God is initiating a relationship with Abraham.
Yeah.
And I'm asking if there are any examples. We're talking about a convert coming to Judaism and believing in God, but I'm talking about somebody who actually would know, like have it, like Abraham has a two-way. I mean, it's in some ways, it's like an open door, a two-way relationship. Like, is there any example of people in our tradition in the Bible where there's that two-way relationship like Abraham had, but instead of God initiating it, somehow the person initiated it with God.
Right.
The other way around.
No, I understand the question. I can't just in the moment. My head
I
is
have
not.
an idea.
About the
The mother. I don't know. It's a good question. I have to wrap
Did
my
you know
head
the story
around.
of the rabbi who didn't read Torah till 40? It's a Rabbi Akiva.
Oh, Rabbi Akiva, right? Rabbi Akiva who kind of discovered Torah on his own. Yeah, that's a good. It might be Rabbi Akiva. Anyway, I want to wrap it up because we're 2 minutes past the time. Let's take questions right afterwards. Let's just officially conclude and then we'll do more Q&A. People are filling up here for the thing. Also, I don't want to like shout over the crowd.
I just want to say one person. How about Ruth?
Yeah, but we're not looking for a conversation. But yes, Now,
Okay, that's all I wanted to say.
Get to let's wrap this up. Question number 1 was this won't close, it broke. At least last time I checked, which was earlier today. So unless it got fixed, but I don't know. So just quickly to wrap this up, we have 3 questions. Question number 1 is why no backstory? The answer is exactly no backstory, because that's not the whole point. Is to highlight the power of God said I'm doing it. That's the highlight here. Second question: what kind of weird mitzvah is this? Leave your land, leave your birthplace, leave your father's house. So there's a text here, which I don't know that I want to read inside, but I'll just tear it to you outside. It says in Jewish mysticism that when it says to leave your land, you know what it means? Leave your desires. Leave your birthplace, leave your emotions, leave your father's house, leave your rationale, the way you think. Meaning, don't make this about what you want or how you feel or what you think about, for 2 reasons. Number 1, any committed relationship that is completely dependent on your mood on any given day is a super shaky relationship. There's a reason why many people who have a committed relationship have a commitment ceremony, which we would call a chuppah, right? We would call a marriage, which basically says, I am committing that it's not going to be fluctuating based on my mood. Everyone's got up and down. Everyone's moods have up and downs. I'm excited about it today. I'm not excited about it tomorrow. I want to do it. I don't want to do it. I feel I understand it. I don't understand it. A Judaism that's based on moods, God says, this is not a good foundation. You want to build your tower of Judaism on quicksand? Are you kidding me? You got to build it on a bedrock. Something that's unmoving. You know what that is? Commitment. God said, I'm doing it. Now, do I strive to understand, to feel, to want? Sure. Icing on the cake, not the cake. Okay, that's not point one. But point two is way deeper. This is what we've said the whole time. God is telling Abraham, you want a relationship with me or your own feelings about me? What do you want to connect with? Your own mood or actually me? Lech Lecha, leave all that behind and embrace me for who I am and what I am and what I ask of you. Don't stay stuck inside your emotions. That's the second answer. That's the second answer to the second question. The third question was, and God is promising such vast, blessings and reward for just leaving your home. Yeah. If you and I can get out of our own heads, and instead of like, what does God want? Which mitzvah am I excited to do? Making about us, and instead just leave that behind for a moment. What does God want? Right? Where are those little bracelets? What would God want? Right? What does God want me to do right now in this moment? Yeah, Jesus. What would God want of me to do right now? And you know what? If we think like that, what greater blessing is that? What greater reward is that? Right? A person who can get out of their own ego and surrender to God. It's a beautiful thing. Do we need to study? Yes. Should we be excited about a mitzvah? Absolutely. Is the foundation of Judaism that God said, and we did? Yes. I promised at the beginning of the class that I would connect this with Chabad Street Judaism, and I would hate to renege on my promise. So very quickly, the Rebbe over the years started many campaigns. Probably the most famous one is the Tefillin campaign, where the Rebbe said, go out into the streets, Friday afternoon, let's say, hit the streets, and ask people, hey, are you Jewish? Do you want to wrap tefillin? And many people said, whoa, slow it down. Hold on. You got to get people excited about tefillin. First, you should invite them to a class. And then explain to them, first of all, who is God? What is God? What's a mitzvah? What's tefillin? Why are they important? And then when a person gets excited, you say, now you want to put them on. And the Rebbe flipped the script, going straight to the performance of the mitzvah. You know why? Because at the end of the day, that's the heart of a mitzvah. The heart of the mitzvah is not, this mitzvah seems so meaningful, let me do it. The heart of it, that's nice. But the heart, the core, the bread and butter of a mitzvah is, God said, to do a mitzvah, I did a mitzvah. I want to end with one story. There was a chassid, Chabad, didn't even live that long. Passed away, 20 years ago. Reb Mendel Futterfass. He was a Russian Chabadnik. He was part of the Jewish underground, meaning keeping Judaism alive under the heavy persecution of communism. He got caught. He was sent to Siberia for over a dozen years. He survived. He made it out. And the story goes, he was once on an airplane, back when you could walk around and talk. Not only, you got to sit down. There might be turbulence, buckle. So he's on an airplane. He sees a guy who looks Jewish. Sometimes you can tell. He couldn't speak English. Just a few words. You know what he said? Me Jewish, you Jewish. Me tefillin, you tefillin. And the guy put on tefillin. Wow. Because you know what? At the end of the day, it's not about being excited about it. It's not about understanding it. It's about doing it. Nike must have learned this, because Nike's tagline is just do it. Just do it. And they even use the shofar as the logo. Yeah, that's the key. Just do it. Don't get stuck in your head. Don't get stuck in your heart. Don't get stuck in your father's house, your head. Don't get stuck in your Your birthplace, your feelings. Don't get stuck in your land, which is your desires, your wants. Don't get stuck in that. Just do it. It's good. It's like it's almost unburdening to just do it because God said so. Yeah. Final word, Toba. No pressure.
In one of the Kabbalah magazines I read
Yeah.
several months ago,
Okay.
a lot of people are gathered together. And
Yeah.
I was man with a lot of kids and they're all ultra religious.
Yeah.
And one man said, "You must really believe in God to bring your children up this way."
Yeah.
And he said, "I believe in nothing. I teach." This was a Kabbalah.
Beautiful. Beautiful. This was written somewhere. In one of the magazines. Like I just said, like it's not a theological thing, it's not a philosophical thing. This is who I am. I'm committed because I'm Jewish, because this is who I am. Anyway, we should all strive for this connection, strive for this connection straight with the source. Soul, I mean, not calling on a soul, but essence to essence. And with that, we will be connected. All right, let us say amen. A few quick announcements as we close it out. And as the chicken poppers aroma fill the room. So a few things. Number one, tomorrow we are starting the Kabbalah meeting. We have close to 90 people. 90 people signed up for this course. It is going to be phenomenal. We have a daytime class at noon. We have an evening class at 7:30. We have in-person options. We have online options available. So we have recordings if you have to miss a class. There's almost no way that you can escape Kabbalah. So this course is all about how to live life enhanced, high def, 4K, 8K with greater meaning, satisfaction, happiness, and joy. And who's going to say, you know what? I don't want to. I want to live life just miserable. Come on. No one wants that. Not to say, God forbid, any of us are miserable, but who wouldn't want a little extra dose of meaning? 6 weeks, 6 different topics related to the Kabbalah meaning. You're going to love it. If you're not sure, like, what is it? What does it really do? I'd like to go. Try the first class on me. Try before you buy, as they say. Try it. You'll love it. What was the cereal commercial? Mikey likes it. Something like that. Try it. You'll like it. And if not, no problem. You'll drop out after the first one. That is tomorrow. What's happening Thursday? Thursday, I'm starting a new class at Chabad Toko called The Secrets of the Bible. That is coming up Thursday at noon. Join us for that. It's on the website. This weekend, we have the weekend retreat. And in 2 weeks' time, we have Brandon Murphy speaking about anti-Semitism and the history of anti-Semitism and where we are today. He's a Catholic fellow who's a teacher at Marist. And it's going to be phenomenal starting Monday, November 10th and 17th, 2 sessions for 2 hours each, 4 hours total. And I don't know, check the website for more details about all of the above. Join us. You will love it. Yes? Good? Onto the chicken. All right. Good to see you all. We'll close it out officially. Lila Tov, everybody.
Let it
We'll see ya.
Go on.